Recording. Hi, my name is Cynthia Sarles, and you can call me Mrs. Sarles. Sarles rhymes with Charles, Sarles, like that. And I'm glad to be here. I'm thrilled that you're here. Almost all of you signed up for this class early, like October kind of early. And that tells me the kind of students that get your stuff done. You take care of business, which is exciting to me. Because it's always more fun to teach people who have some motivation and focus on what they're doing. What I recognize is that you have made it to spring semester, and that's not everybody makes it to spring. You have made it during an online class, which almost none of us want. And you have made it during the coronavirus semester, which is just, for some of you, I get it. For some of you, it is daunting. For some of you, it is overwhelming. Some of you, have financial issues. Some of you have mental health issues. Some of you have had coronavirus and it's hit you hard. And some of you, I would imagine, have people close to you who have died of it. So I get it that this is, I always need to be reminded, but I get it that it is very difficult for a lot of you just this time. And DJ, yeah, online learning works for a few people, but as a lot of us have learned, it's not our favorite method. What I'll miss most about this semester is being able to watch you, watching how cool you are. I'll never know who the funniest one is. I'll never know who the cool one is. I'll never know when you've dressed up for class because you've got an interview and be able to share that excitement when you get that job. I mean, there's just so much that I miss out on from knowing you, and for that I'm sorry. I hope we can get together in the fall. We seem really unable to stay away from each other and get past this in this country, in the world. We're not, it's not different. Okay, so I want to take you on a trip. Let's see if I can't share my application screen here. I want to go to this screen. This is Blackboard. This is where everything for this class happens. It opens up at lessons. There's a picture of my parents' backyard there. That doesn't matter to you, but I put this up in November or so when I first got this class, almost first. Anyway, that's a long time ago. That was 9 inches. That was not my backyard last week. Very disappointing. Okay, down here, this is where I plant a slide each week. Probably around Saturday or Sunday, I'll plant a new slide, maybe earlier than that, depending on our deadlines. There are 4 things that you need to do at this point. Sign into my math lab. 34 of the 38 people enrolled in this class have already done that. I'm so excited about that. That says to me so much. You may not know that, but it speaks hugely toward your determination to get through this class successfully. Sign up for a chat with me. Click on that link. Every one of these is a link. Click on that link and go sign up for a spot that's open so that you can, you and I can face-to-face and say hello, and you can tell me if you're a SAR student, and you can tell me if you've got a workload, and we can talk about what you're concerned about this semester, that kind of stuff. Get yourself this calculator, click on that, and that'll show you the calculator. I will, as we go through our class today, pull mine out and show you the calculator that you need. It's the only one you can use for tests, so you'll need it by week 3 to take your practice test. And then join Rebecca's GroupMe. She's on this one. Yay for Rebecca for volunteering for doing that. I meant she's on this class, but she's also ponying up the GroupMe. I think I saw 17 of you there right now. That's wonderful. You're not required to join that. What I do know that if you do join this GroupMe, you have access to every other student that has joined, and you can get together. I mean, you can badmouth me if you'd like to. That's fine. Work off some steam. I'm cool with that. I am not on this GroupMe. Rebecca is not a narc. She is not going to be reporting back to me who is and isn't on it. I don't care. I want you to have a safe place to chat with each other about your concerns and get help with homework, whatever you think you need to be doing. 504, is that special education kind of stuff? If that's it, Gabriel, then SARS, it's SAR, it's special accommodate, and that's not what it is. Anyway, you should know, for all y'all, if you're a SARS student, it would be someone who has special accommodations to take the class, like double time on the tests or time and a half on the tests. That's the most common one, that kind of thing. It's a leveling of the playing field. And if you've got accommodations, I mean, my bachelor's degree is in special ed, very, very soft heart for leveling the playing field here. So just let me know by email or in our meeting at Sign Up Genius. I would love to hear from you there when we meet. Okay, let's see. Back up to the top. Let me go see what that is about if I have to. Oh, yeah. Yes, I can recommend anywhere to get the calculator. Anywhere. I mean, it's $10 at Walmart and Target. You need it within 2 weeks, so use Amazon. It'll cost you, yeah, it's about $10. If you want a pretty color, it'll cost you a little bit more than that. But $10 is the, you know, the black and gray one that you can get. Okay, on this left-hand side, let's see, when you go to do My Math Lab, the way you will go always is on this left-hand side, the content area. You'll hit My Math Lab here. Once you get in. First, let me back up. Number one, sign into My Math Lab. Click on there for the instructions on how to get in. There's so few of you that aren't already in, so I know most of you know this, but this is where the instructions are. Once you've done that, then you don't have to sign in separately. When you get into Blackboard, My Math Lab is a link over here, and then it opens up and you're right here on My Lab and Mastering course home. Click on that. That takes us to another window, so I'm going to need to cart you along with me. Hang on a second. Let's stop doing that and let's do crap, it didn't take. Let's try this. I don't think that's it. Nope. Let's try it again. Okay, that's better. Let me stop sharing here. It's a little bit cumbersome. Course home, there we go. Okay, you've got this view right now. Let me see what somebody's audio stopped. Is that just me? I've got audio. Do you guys have audio?
Yes.
Okay, so other folks can hear me. Catherine, are you still not a, that doesn't help, does it? Let's see. Can you hear me, Catherine? Okay, so it looks like it's Catherine's, but me hollering at her doesn't help, so I don't think she's hearing that. Okay, we will move forward. This is my view of My Math Lab. I know that's different from yours. Let me take you to your homework over here on the left-hand side. Homework right there. This is what you need. You can see that I've got dates over here. If it has a due date, okay, that doesn't help, does it? Okay, try coming back in. Mostly spelled right. Okay, these dates over here tell you when an assignment is due. You can see that what we're going to do today, intermediate algebra review and 1.5, we'll do about half of it, are due on February 11th. That's a long time from now. If you wish to fail this class, if you're looking for a set of instructions on how to fail this class, I would suggest to you that you wait until February 11th to start any of the homework. That's how to fail the class. What you need to do is when we get done with this today, before we meet again, before we meet on Monday, get the homework done. Stay up with what we've done. If I've gone over it in class, I'll tell you what we've done, then you're responsible for it at My Math Lab. And I would get it done as quickly, not as quickly as you can, like in the next day, but I mean before class meets again. That's the way to stay up on it. Notice that the media does not have an assigned date because you don't have to do those. Those are videos and stuff like that. that you can do or not do. Most students don't, but if you feel the need for them, you do them. I know that's helped some people. Test 1 review is already sitting here. It is also due midnight the night before the test. Let's see what we do in here. No, they're not. They're not graded at all. Media is not extra credit. It's not graded. It might be extra credit in the sense that if you get it done, you understand the material better, and it gives you kind of like extra credit. You know, you'll make a better grade, but I won't check to see if you've done them or not. It suits me whichever way you go. Your textbook is here. Right here, if you click on that, it'll have another click that you got to do, view the e-text, and that goes to another, it opens up another window, so I'm not going to go there because I'm not going to follow it out there. But your text is there if you're interested in looking at your text. Each one of these sections, if you get to 100%, I'll give you a bonus point on the test that we take at the end of test 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 separate sections. Each one of those that you get to 100% gets you a bonus point on the test. It's the only bonus extra credit kind of thing that I do. And what I find is we'll work for that 1 point. So as human beings, we'll go in there and get that section up to 100. Most of you will get all of your sections up to 100 for this first test. And we'll end up with about half of you doing it by the end of the semester. That's just the way it goes. There's fall off. You know how that goes. But you think, well, it's just 1 stinky point. Oh, it's not 1 stinky point. It's 7 points if you get them all done. Not only do you get the bonus point, you also get the value of getting your section up to 100%. So maybe you don't completely understand everything you did, but you did see it. And there's not going to be any surprises. There could be nothing on a test that isn't like what you've already done. So getting that to 100% benefits you so strongly. Okie doke. Let's see. Oh, no. Infinite number of attempts, Jacqueline. Are you Jacqueline or are you Jackie? Jackie, okay. Infinite number of attempts. As many times as you want. You can go back in there until the due date, February 11th, and perfect those problems. We'll talk more about homework maybe Monday or so, but there's no limit. And if you find a question that says limit, and I don't think you will, point it out to me, email me, and I'll change it back to infinite number of times. And you gain no benefit by having your smart cousin do these for you. 100 on homework and 50s on test is not going to get you to pass. So, be smart. And I think you are going to be smart because y'all signed up here so early. Okay, let's see. What do I want to do now? I want to stop sharing that. I want to go back to, let's see, let me stop sharing me. And let's get back to the dot cam. And poof, there we go. Okay, so calendar is here, and I know some of you had trouble getting into the calendar. I'm sorry about that. Google Slides requires that I open it to everyone. That's an extra step that occasionally I forget, and I forgot on the calendar to do that. It is available to you now. Let's see, that's not all we needed to do. The most important thing we needed to do, let me go back. We are here maybe, yeah, that'll get us there. Okay, down here, these 4 things. We've also got another slide down here. I'll just keep the stack of slides going, so every week I'll put the week's new one on top. Here are your references. Here's your syllabus. That's the PDF of all the stuff you need to know. It's a good resource for information. My syllabus video is 13 minutes long. It tells you what I think is important in this syllabus, which means kind of it's important to you too, Here's the calendar that I'm using, on my dot cam that you'll see every day we start class. Here's another set of instructions from my math lab. Here's a scholarship opportunity at UTA for people who want to teach science or math. It's a great opportunity. You might open that if that's you. These 3 proctorios down here, we'll get into this 3rd week, so probably next week I'll look at it with you. You don't need to look at it now and do the practice test now unless you're just dying to. Okay, MathLab tutoring is wonderful also, and there's another way to get there up here, Tutor 24/7 or tutoring at TCC. Okay, now I think I'm ready to go back here and grab the dot cam and get started here. That's just cool when it focuses. Okay, any questions, anything? You can chat or you can open your mic. Any questions about what we do before we start diving into this math? Yes, Rebecca.
I just want to clarify that the practice proctorio test is not due anytime soon. You'll let us know when it's due.
Completely. There will be no surprises in this class. Those of you who like surprises, sorry, there are none in this class. And some of you will get really tired of hearing me talk about it. It won't be due until probably Saturday or Sunday of the 3rd week. So almost 3 weeks from now, 2.5 full weeks from, 2.5 weeks from now. And it'll be on your slide, on your Google slide that you've got to do it. And I will have taken you through it and talked about the instructions. You'll be tired of it. We'll start that next week. Anybody else? This is me giving a long pause because that's the way you get people to pipe in if they might be a little reluctant. Okie doke. Sounds like, oh, there we go. Yes, there will be a time limit of 1.5 hours. That gives everybody enough time. And if you've got SARS limitations or SARS accommodations, that gives you more time, of course. I had one test that was too long. I learned that last semester. Now I know. I have to put a time limit on it of some kind. It's real important to try to level the playing field so that you don't have time to look up answers. And anyway, you're being videotaped, so that's not going to happen. So yes, there is 20 questions, 20 multiple choice questions. It's like a gift to you, isn't it? It'd be more questions probably, and it would and maybe it's 25. It may be 25. I don't want to mispronounce your name. Would you tell me how to pronounce? Would you open your mic and tell me? Maybe Kaylina?
Good job. You said it right the first time.
Wonderful. That means I'll be calling you by the right name from now on. If I'd said it weird, I would be stuck with that in my brain. Let's see, extra credit towards the end of semester for those who aren't happy with their grade. No, I can't do that. That is really a no-no. Your extra credit is the 1 point, the accumulation of points that you earn on my math lab. So you'll be earning 7, 8, 9, 10 points each test. So your test, if you will get your my math lab up to 100, each of those sections, then that will earn you into the next grade level anyway. And just by doing the material, you're going to boost your grade naturally, organically. So you just have so many opportunities. But I can't do more than one. I used to also sub in the final for the lowest, that kind of routine. But my boss, the best boss in the world, told me I can't do that. Pick one or the other. And I picked the one that rewards learning behavior rather than band-aids, oopses. And I think rewarding learning behavior is really a better idea. It's a better way to go. The final is comprehensive, but don't worry about that. We will have a new review for that only focuses on those questions. It's a 50-question review, and we will spend the last week, the last 3 hours of class, going over that. There'll be no surprises, like I told you. It'll be good. I think they see an I there instead of an L. I think that's the thing we're going to talk about when I meet with you at the Sign Up Genius is, how do you pronounce your name? What do you go by? Okay, let's get started. We are looking at the intermediate algebra review, and then we'll start 1.5. For those of you who are spectacular at algebra, this will be very much a review day for you. For those of you who are needing a brush up on it, I'm going to ditch this pen. For those of you needing a brush up on it, this will do that. Dust off the brain cells, get you back in the mood, remind you of some things. And those of you who are just saying, holy crap, I have no idea what she's talking about, then we need to get you triaged. We need to get you into 0362 as quick as we can. You may not be right about that, DJ. Let's see. Let's see if you're saying holy crap or if you're saying, okay, I think I can hang with this. Okay, first one we're looking at, 11 minus 3x to the second power will look very much like the first problem you'll do in my math lab. I go problem by problem by problem by problem, coming up with a new kind of problem or different numbers. So my math lab will very much mirror what we're doing in class. This says you've got to write 11 minus 3x twice. That's what the 2 tells you to do. Write it twice. And then because we have a binomial, 2 guys times 2 guys, we're going to have to FOIL this. That's an abbreviated set of letters that means we're going to be able to multiply both of these 2 terms times both of these 2 terms. Everybody here gets multiplied times everybody here. So let's start doing that. Here's the first one, F. F stands for first. So I'm going to multiply 11 times 11. I'm getting 121. Then the O stands for outside. The outside, the 2 that are on the outside of this pairing. And that's 11 times a negative 3x. So that's negative 33x. Then we've got the I, and the I stands for the inside pair. And that's a negative 3x times 11. It's another negative 33x. And then finally, L stands for last. That's the last one in this group times the last one in this group. So it's a negative 3x times negative 3x. So it's a positive 9x squared. Then we have to combine like terms. Those 2 guys in the middle both have x's. So I owe you 33x. I owe you another 33x. So I owe you 66x's. And then that guy. And there's our answer. That's a simple FOIL. Let's look at a binomial, 4x plus 11 times a trinomial, x squared minus 2x plus 3. Okay, there are a couple of ways we can do this. If we were going to do a bundle of these, this is just a review, just a reminder, and we're not going to get into depth in this kind of thing. But if we were going to do a whole bunch of these, we might take this over and put the one with the most, the trinomial there, the binomial here, and we would start with 11 and multiply 11 times 3, and then 11 times negative 2x, and 11 times x squared, and then get to the second row and start multiplying 4x times all those, and line them up and all like that. If you do it that way, yay for you. You're there. You're wonderful. Do that. Keep doing it. Long as you get the right answer, you're doing it the right way. But what I prefer to do on this, because we're not going to be doing a bundle of them and we're not going to get gargantuan problems, is I'm going to multiply 4x times each of these, distribute there, and then I'm going to come back and I'll multiply 11 times each of these guys. But let's first multiply 4x. And if you are getting ahead of me, if you are multiplying this out because you pretty much know what I'm doing, yay for you, do that. Anything that you can do in your own brain is way better than following me as I do my stuff. So 4x times x squared, that's 4x to the third power. That's a 3, sorry about that. 4x times negative 2x, that's a negative 8x squared. 4x times 3 will give us a 12x. Okay, now let's go back and multiply 11 times everybody in that second set of parentheses. 11 times x squared is 11x squared. We know we're going to have to combine like terms, so line them up now. Make it easier on yourself. 11 times negative 2x, that's negative 22x. And then 11 times 3. Okay, so we'll add all this up. Negative 8 and a positive 11. Signs are different, so we're going to subtract and take the sign of the big guy. 12 minus 22 is minus 10x, and then plus 33. And there we go. That's the answer to that. Remember, my job is not my voice making noise, not teaching. My job is that you learn. So if you have a question, you need to ask. Back in the olden days, I could look out at your faces and see who's looking at me like a puppy dog in the back of the car, you know. I could see who was confused. I can't see who is confused now, so you're just going to have to advocate for yourself. Nobody else is going to say, hey, so-and-so doesn't understand this, because they don't know you either. They can't see your face either. So what I need for you to do is, if you have a question, I need you to ask. And you don't get to apologize, because that's my job, is to answer questions. No, I am the least terminology kind of person. No, you do not need, we'll never have a vocab test in here. Never, never, never. So let's see, I see Catherine is here. I'm hoping Catherine can hear this. Let's see. What does FOIL stand for again? F stands for the first pairing. The first guy in here times the first guy here. Good for you, Catherine. And then outside, that's the outside ones, the ones that are on the complete outside. Then inside, that's these two in the middle. And then last, the two that are last in this coupling and last in that coupling. And never before have they been called coupling. So no, terminology is not my thing. And thank you for asking, DJ. I appreciate that. Okay, let's look at a little division. Let's look at 18, x to the 5th, y to the 5th, over 12, x to the 7th, y to the negative 6. We got to do a little neaten up here. We're going to start with the 12 and the 18. You know, this is back to 4th grade or so, reducing fractions. I know 6 can go into both of them. If you only see 2, you only see 2. So let's say we only see 2. So divide each one of them by 2. Oh, and now I see that they both divide by 3. So I'm going to divide them both by 3. Whoops, blew that. There we go. Okay. Now let's look at the x's. I see that I've got more on bottom. This is bottom heavy. I got 5 on top, and I've got 7 on bottom. So I can cancel these and cancel those and cancel those and cancel, and I'm left with 2 on bottom. So this very much is a subtraction exercise. We get rid of all 5 on top, and we're left with 2 on bottom. The y is a little different situation. A negative exponent, not a negative number, but a negative exponent says, move me, move me, move me, move me, if he's negative. This guy is saying, move me, move me, move me, and he keeps saying it until you move him. And it's really annoying to hear my voice. I hope you hear it on a test or something saying, move me, move me, move me, but you need to move him. The only place to be is on top or on bottom. So we're going to go up here. Yes, exactly. Going to go up there. And now we have y to the 5th times y to the 6th. Those will get added. Let me show you why. There's y. Did you get that? You see what I did there? And there's 6 of them, and there, we want to multiply them together. These are already all multiplied together. So there you go. You can see 11 of them. So that becomes y to the 11th. So let's see what we've got left over. 3 on top, 2 on bottom, x to the 2nd on bottom, y to the 11th on top, and that's all we've got. That's the final answer. Yeah, you got to make sure that you have no negative exponents on bottom or on top. Negative exponents are not allowed. So kick out all the negative exponents just by moving them. That's all you have to do, is move them, and poof, that negative, you've done his job. Remember, he's saying, move me, move me, move me. So when you move him, he becomes a positive 6 up there on top. All right, let's look at the 9th root. No worries, don't get too scared. Of 1024 x to the 10th divided by the 9th root of 2x. Okay, these are both 9th roots. You can't really see that there, but that's a 9 right there, and that's a 9 right there. So we're allowed to put them under the same house. 1024 x to the 10th over 2x. And we want to do that. Do some simplifying. We can do some dividing. So we've got 2 goes into 1024. Use your calculator. Let me grab mine so we can start using mine. This is the calculator you need. It's a TI 30X2S. It's the only one allowed. You need to get it by 2 weeks from this weekend, because you're going to have a practice test. Every time you take your test, you have to show me this calculator. Okay, so 1024 divided by 2 gives us 512. And then x to the 10th divided by x to the 1st. That's like what we did with the x's here. This is top heavy. Let's subtract, and we get x to the 9th. Now we need to know what the 9th root of 512 is. You may know it. You don't need to know it. But if you don't know it, you need to use your calculator. Right here is the key that you need. You can see it's got a radical symbol and an x up there in the where the number goes. That's what you do first for the TI calculator. You have to put the number in that you want first. So we're looking for the 9th root. So put a 9 in there. And now let's grab this symbol. You can see it's in the gutter. So it's a second key function. And then hit this humpy button. It's actually called a caret, but humpy is so much more fun to say than caret. So then what pops up here is this 9 is the root that we're looking for. Put in 512 and hit the equal sign, and we find out it's a 2. That means 2 to the 9th power is 512. 2 times 2 times 2, endlessly. So we get a 2 out of that. And then doing an exponent is so much easier. 9 divided by 9 gives us 1. So there's the answer. X to the 9th gives us x to the 9th. 2 to the 9th gives us 512. This is a perfect number we found out on the calculator. We found it's a perfect 2. So he comes flying out of there to become a 2. 9 divides evenly by 9. So this guy comes flying out of there to become 2x. There's no radical on here because these were perfect. Okay, let's look at GCF, greatest common factor. We've got 21x squared plus 14x, and we're just trying to find the greatest common factor. That's the greatest number that will go into both 21 and 14, and the greatest number of x's they both have in common. That's what the C, his middle name is common, so we're looking for what they have in common. So 21 and 14, we're looking for the biggest number that will divide into each. That, of course, is a 7. 7 will go evenly into 21, and 7 will also go evenly into 14. So that's the number we're going to pull out. X squared and x. Now we're looking for the largest number of x's that they each have to give. So if you're thinking like something like x to the 3rd, no, this one doesn't have 3 x's. This one doesn't have 3 x's. Good. If you're thinking x squared, good, this one's got x squared to give, but this one does not. So we have to crawl down to the littlest amount, to the x. That's the greatest amount that this one has, and this one also has. So 7x is our GCF, and that's where you will stop on the problem that asks you for GCF. If they asked you to factor it out, let's take that extra step just because that's a fun thing to do. So if we did divide that out, we would say 21 divided by 7, that gives us 3. We started with x squared. We've put one of them by the front door. That leaves us with 1. Then a plus sign. And then, yes, you have to find out. You have to find what number goes into both, the 21 and the 14. And then you have to find out the number of x's that they both are able to forfeit. They're both able to cough up. You good with that, Austin? Oh, you're asking just. Yeah, this is the answer for this problem. I'm just going to take it one extra step for us just because it's good practice for what we'll be doing. So 14 divided by 7 gives us a 2. This guy had an x, we put it at the front door. This would be the answer if they asked you to factor it out. They did not. The answer to this problem is only 7x. They asked you only for the greatest common factor. I wanted to take the extra step. Now, when you've got this, if you wanted to check it, this is division work. We did dividing. If you want to check it, redistribute. 7x times 3x, cool. 7x times 2, yay. So I can tell that I correctly did this by redistributing, if you're in the mood. Okay, but 7x is the answer here. This was just extra stuff. Let's factor by grouping. We won't do a lot of these. We will do one every once in a while. So I know that we don't stay skilled at it. So I will continue to show you slowly how to do each one of these, because I know that most of you will not retain that skill if we don't do them more frequently. Factor by grouping happens when you have 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 terms. The first thing we got to do is see if there's a GCF for all 4. Okay, that one has an X, that has an X, that has an X. Oh, this one doesn't have an X. These all have 3's we could divide out, but this does not have a 3 in the coefficient. So there is no GCF. We're going to move straight to factor by grouping. The way to do that is to pair them up. We're going to GCF that pair, and then we're going to GCF that pair. So let's see. What do these two only have in common? I see x to the third and 9x squared. So they both have an x squared that I can pull out of them. If I start with the x to the third and I pull out 2 of the x's, I've still got 1 left over, and sure enough, redistribute. X squared times x gives you x to the third. And if you're sitting there and you are bored solid right now, you need to probably get on your knees and pray to whoever, thank whoever you pray to, because that's great to be bored a little bit in a math class. Day one, most of you probably are kind of like riding pretty comfortably. We will get into more interesting things. No worries. And then we take the x squared out of that one, and yes, we have an x minus 9, Helena said. Then move the plus sign down, and now we're just concentrating on these two and looking for the GCF for those two. They both have a 3 in common, and we'll divide the 3 out. We'll get an x. Good. And then we will say minus, and then 27 divided by 3, and we'll get that 9. Notice that these two match. They have to. To play the factor by grouping game, these two sets of parentheses have to match. If they don't, you did something wrong. Maybe you copied it down wrong. Maybe it was that early. Now what we're doing is we're looking here and here for something they have in common. And you can see, so the first number always stays outside. Jackie, I don't know what that means. Open up your mic. You can talk better with that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so for instance, so like the x squared, does that stay out of the parentheses?
It does right now, but it's about to jump in its own set.
Okay.
Okay. So what do these two, what does this whole thing have in common with that whole thing? You can see that they've both got an x minus 9. And now the rest of the answer is this crap that Jackie says is staying outside. We're now going to put him inside his own. X squared plus 3. And this is the final answer. If we were to FOIL this out, we would get back up here. X times x squared is x cubed, etc. This would end up being this. So we have factored into two things that multiply to give you them. We don't have to worry about that right now, Rebecca, in the square root problem. I think we'll just stay with, if you don't mind, with what we have to worry about. Thanks. And that reminded me that anytime you have a problem with something, or if you're trying to fill in the gaps of something, Khan Academy is just an excellent resource. KhanAcademy.com, and you may already know that. I imagine you've all heard of it. Great resource for these. Just put into the search engine whatever you need. This answer is the answer. You can always, on any of these problems in your whole entire life, this is the same thing as that. It doesn't matter which one goes first and which set of parentheses go last. It never matters. We can always play musical chairs with those two sets of parentheses. Okay, let's look at regular old trinomial factoring. Let's start with 2x squared plus 16x plus 24. Again, start with GCF. Is there something they all have in common? And yes, there is. They all can be divided by 2. So let's go in, dip in, and divide each of the terms by 2. So we'll get an x squared, an 8x, and a 12. Keep the 2, he matters, but now let's factor this trinomial, and this sort of thing is what we'll be doing when we factor so often. This is our most common kind of factoring with a trinomial there. So we're going to unfoil it. We're going to get back to 2 sets of parentheses here. So what do we want to put something here and here and here and here so that we can foil that out and get back up to here. So in the first spots, these two in the first spots need to multiply to give us x squared. So that'll be x's and x's. The next thing we need are signs. We need like an x minus 9 or a minus or a plus. We need that kind of idea. Here's where you figure that out. We got a plus sign at the back. When you have a plus sign at the back, the signs in your answer need to match. So my signs here need to either be pluses, or both minuses. I only have positive in this problem, so I wouldn't want to muck that up by bringing in negatives. So it'll always be positives. Good. Now we're looking for the magic numbers. We need two numbers here that the two numbers serve one function. They have got to be able to multiply to give you 12 and add together to give you 8. So 1 times 12 multiplies to give you 12, but it doesn't add together to give you 8. It gives you 13. So let's try the next number up. 2 times 6. Oh, there we go. We've got 6 times 2 will multiply to give us 12. 6 plus 2 will add to give us 8. So those are the numbers we need to use right there. And you don't need to build this unless you're confused about what to use. If you can figure it out, like we got a couple people here, and I know there are many more of you that figured it out, you don't need to build something. This is just in case you know, it's better than praying to the math gods. It's just an easier way. Start with 1 and work your way up. So 2 and 6, doesn't matter which one goes where. We can have x plus 2 in the back and x plus 6 in the front. It doesn't matter. But here's our answer. That's the thing factored. If you FOIL these out, you get up here. If you multiply times 2, you get back to our original problem, which is your goal. Let's do another one. 100x squared minus 20x plus 1. Same game. Is there a GCF? No, it will never, ever, 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 ever matter which pair of parentheses you've got. Now, when the signs are different, you have to be careful that you put, like here, we have to make sure that the x and the 9 go with the minus sign, that these three find each other, that the x squared and the plus and the 3 find each other, but they can be in back or they can be in front. It doesn't matter. And we'll go over a problem where I can address that more easily. But not this one. Okay, is there a GCF? No, there's nothing they all have in common, so let's write our answer. What I notice about 100, it's a perfect square, and I notice 1 is a perfect square. That means these are going to be perfect squares here too. I know that 1 times 100, 2 times 50, 4 times 25, 5 times 20, 10 times 10 are all possibilities, but we're not going to kill you with those, I promise. This is going to be straightforward stuff. Very rarely will I kill you, and it won't be with factoring. When we notice that this is a perfect square and that's a perfect square, you know, squares, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, those numbers, we're going to use the square root. So let's use 10x and 10x. Again, let's figure out the signs. We have a plus sign at the back. When you have a plus sign at the back, the signs sign says they have to match. And then the square root of 1 is 1. This is the answer. If you were to FOIL it out, you get back up here. And if you're feeling in a fancy pants kind of mood, you can write it like that, 10x minus 1 to the 2nd power. That'd be fine. Let's look at a tricky one, x squared plus 16. When they're two terms, they are the type difference of two squares. Notice that this is a perfect square. X times x is x squared. This is a perfect square, 16, 4 times 4. But this is not difference. This is a sum. So this cannot be factored. Cannot be factored, or whatever the button is at my math lab that you'll need to hit. Now, if it were x squared minus 16, the difference meaning subtract, then it would work. Let's see how that will work. X and x, the sign here, you've got a minus sign right there at the end. That's the first time we've had a minus sign at the back. When you have a minus sign at the back, the signs need to be different. So one will need to be a plus and one will need to be a minus. And just like before, it doesn't matter if you put the minus first or the plus first. It doesn't matter. Multiplication, the order doesn't matter. You know 2 times 5 is the same thing as 5 times 2. That's what's happening here. This is this thing times this thing, and it doesn't matter which one goes in front and which one goes in back. Okay, now we're looking for numbers that multiply to give us 16. That'll be 4s, and that Yeah, 4 for both. Okay, Austin. What? Open your mic. Tell me what you're talking about.
Oh, I was just confused. I was just trying to read what is wrote, like minus signs differentiate. What was that word that you wrote?
Signs need to be different.
Oh, different. My
That
bad.
says
Sorry.
signs need to be. No, no, no. Do not. I love you, Austin. Thank you so much for apologizing. So put your pencil down and listen for a second. It won't be long. You don't get to apologize. Nobody gets to apologize for asking for information in this class. You are doing yourself a favor, and you are doing myself a favor, and you are doing everybody in this class a favor, because anytime you ask a question, there are more people that have that same question, and the people who don't just as soon take a 5 or 10 second break. So we should be thanking you. I should be saying I'm sorry for not covering it or not writing it well enough for you to be able to read. But when you ask a question in this class, all y'all, you don't get to apologize. So let's move forward. So now we have x plus 4 and x minus 4. Those have a fancy name. Those are called conjugate pairs, and we'll worry about them later. If you don't know that term, no problem. But if you were to FOIL this out, x times x is x squared. Look what happens. Negative 4x, positive 4x. They're gone. That's why we have no x term in the middle here. And then last gives you negative 16. Okie doke. Next thing we are looking at, still in the intermediate algebra review, we're going to stick an equal sign in our problem. Maybe. I had a wonderful time between my 8 o'clock class and my 2 o'clock class. Most of the time I sat in my living room on my couch and teared up, loving the fact that this is a great day to be a woman in this country. This is a great day to be a person of color. It's a great day to be a person of goodwill today in this country. And if you have not heard Lady Gaga sing the Star Spangled Banner, you have to go out and look at it. Whew. Oh, especially that part about the flag at the end of it. Oh, that's what I'm talking about, DJ, the inauguration. It was, when she sings that part about the flag, was still there. Oh my gosh. I got goosebumps thinking about it. I showed my husband because he was out. Yes, yes. He was out during it. So I showed him and I cried then too. It's sort of embarrassing. And then Amanda, that young woman who read her poem. Amanda begins with a G. Anyway, she is a gem. Teaching a class outside the United. Wow, wow. She was teaching it from DC, are you saying? Wow, that's cool. That is really cool. Okay, that's not very mathy, and I apologize. At least you weren't with me last semester. I mean, I really had to shut my mouth a lot of times, but I pushed a ton of people into voting, and I'm very proud of that. Tarrant County went for our current president. So anyways, I'm sorry if that's not your politics. I really do, and I will be able to this semester not talk about it so much because I can sleep at night. I can breathe a sigh of relief. I feel like there's hope for us. So let's move forward. 3 parenthesis x minus 4 plus 17 equals 2 parenthesis x plus 5. Oh, looky there. We have an equal sign. This is our first problem that has an equal sign. That's huge when you throw an equal sign into a math problem. That means your answer can't be, let me drag this back up. Your answer can't be this kind of stuff or this or 2x. Can't be 2 sets of parentheses like here. It has to be x equals 3 or x equals negative 7 over 6. You got to have x equals happening here. So let's see. Let's get this taken care of. We're going to have to distribute there. But seriously, if you love the Star Spangled Banner, go listen to Lady Gaga sing it. Okay, here we go. I'm keeping this equal sign in the middle here just to keep a balance, just to make sure nothing goes wandering off on the side of my page. I'm going to combine these two like terms, negative 12 and a positive 17. I know you can figure that out, but I want to show you how to use your calculator for a negative sign. You're not subtracting right there. You're just saying 12 has a negative in front of him. So don't use the subtraction button. That's a verb right there. You want to use the one that says she has black eyebrows and she has a negative in front of her. -12. So when it starts with a negative, or it's just a characteristic of it, you use this key down here. Then plus 17, and of course you'll get 5. If you had started with the 17, and you're going to add in a -12, that is subtracting because that's the verb, that's the connector between them, and then of course you get 5. Your calculator will do some wonderful, helpful things for you, and I am always willing to show you how to make it happen for you as we get to the point where we need them. Okay, we got to get all the x's on one side, so I'm just generally almost always going to bring x's to the left. Got x plus 5 equals 10. I need to get this number. Now that the x's are all over here, I got to bring the numbers over to the other side. Subtract 5 to get rid of that 5. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to both sides. And there we go. X equals is what you have to have. X equals 5. Anthony, I see you here. I know we can't talk privately here, but what's going on with you? Okay, I got lost. Okay, first, let's see. Well, we had to combine like terms here. There are too many questions coming at me. So yeah, we're just combining -12 and +17 and getting 5. Good, DJ. Okay, so let me go back and look at this thread. Who asked that for? How'd you get rid of the 12 again? -12 plus 17. Those are like terms. Those are both numbers, so we just add them. Yeah, it's a negative added to the 17. No, there's no 12 on that x. There's no x on that 12. Okay, so anybody left with a problem on that one? Get rid of the 12 again. Okay, I think that's the same thing everybody's asking. And good there. Okay. And then Anthony, I see you here, and I didn't know if you had a problem from trying to move to the other class or what, but if you want to open up your mic, that's good. If you just want to wait till class is over, I mean, you do you, or you can email me. Okay.
I'll ask it in the class.
Okay. All right. X equals 5, that tells us that's the only number in the whole wide world that will work. There's no other number that will work if you plug it in here and here than 5. And let's check it out. 5 minus 4 gives us a 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 17 is 20. Over here, put in a 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. 2 times 10 is 20. And sure enough, 20 equals 20. So I knew there was only one answer because the highest exponent we have here is a 1. And that tells you, that exponent tells you how many answers you're going to have. So we only have one answer and we're moving on. The next thing they're asking us to do is to graph 5x plus 1. They're going to ask you to plug in for x -3 through 3. They will give you those numbers. You're not going to have to come up with them. They will prompt you for each one of them individually. What that means is that you're going to plug in a -3 in here for the x. So where did the 20 come from? Oh, I just plugging in the number to see if it worked in the original equation to show you that it works. Abdul, you good with that? Okay. Good, cool. So let's plug in a -3. 5 times -3, this is y equals 5 times -3 plus 1. That's -15 plus 1 gives us a -14. Then let's plug in a -2. Y equals 5 times -2 plus 1. So it's a -10 plus 1 gives us a -9. Then y equals 5 times -1 plus 1. -5 plus 1 will give us a -4. 0 is your best friend. 5 times 0, gone. plus 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11, and then 16. These they will ask you to graph on a graph board, but they're going to give you A, B, C, D. You're not going to have to graph them yourself. Should I show you? No. We'll talk about the test later, Christine. You will turn in your scratch paper, and I know that some of you can do a lot in your head, so we'll talk about that later. But no, you don't have to show every stinking step at all. I know you've got a calculator also, so I know you'll be using that. Okay, we got a graph. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, we got to graph these points. -3, -14. Let me turn it this way. That'll be better. -3, -14. I go -3. Remember, this is the origin. This is 0, 0. Let's worry about that later. Kaylina, can we do that? Or I can talk to you about it we'll talk about it. We got 3 weeks before you got to worry about that. Thanks. I appreciate that. But it's easy. I mean, everybody survived last semester. Nobody had trouble turning it in. So, okay, -3, -14. Start at 0, 0. The x number is -3. Here's the x-axis. It's the number line. You're used to it. Go -1, -2, -3, and then go down -14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I know I went off the screen. That's okay. Next one, -2, -9. -2 on the x-axis, and then on the y-axis is the thermometer, go down 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This little bitty bit of a review, you will not need graph paper because it'll just be matching, or you can do a sloppy graph or whatever. We will use graph paper at other points, and I'll give you a heads up, and I'll give you some graph paper to print, or you can go buy some graph paper if you'd like to do that. It's not a requirement, but boy, it'll make life easier for you. -1, -4 is right here. 0, 1. 0 says don't go sideways, so don't go sideways. Stay here. 1 says go up 1. 1, 6. 1 says go sideways 1. 6 says go up. 2, 11. I'll be off the screen by then, but it's right up here. Go over 2, up 11. And then connect the dots. And that is the line y equals 5x plus 1 right there. Everybody would have the same exact line. There's only one unique line that is y equals 5x plus 1. Okie doke. Let's do another graph. Let's look at y equals 12 minus x squared. And again, they're going to give you the same set of numbers, the same set of x's. So when we get a y equation, we have to do a graph. Not necessarily, it just depends on what they ask you to do. And again, like I said, this will be a matching one, so you will not have to create your own graph on my math lab. You will only be finding the correct one. But yeah, y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b is definitely a line, as we saw there. Okay, let's use the same set of points. They will give those to you. You don't have to create them. Let's plug it in. This says 12 minus -3 squared. Be careful. That's negative and the 3, both. The negative gets squared and the 3 gets squared. Be careful of that. If you're doing this on the calculator, you're going to have to, if you write -3 raised to the second power, you're going to get -9, and that's wrong, because what you told the calculator to do was square the 3, but not the negative. So you want to be sure, if it's got a negative on it, that it's two things. It's a negative and it's a 3. You got to put it in parentheses. Then, oh, sorry, messed that up. -3. Then you got to humpy to it, caret to it, raise it to the second power, and that will give you the actual answer. So -3 squared is a 9. 12 minus 9 is 3. So this is a 3 right here. Let's see, on the homework for my math lab. No, they're not multiple choice on the homework. You'll see, you got fill-ins and multiple choices, a mixture. Let's do the same thing with -2. 12 minus -2 squared. -2 times -2 is a +4. So 12 minus 4 is 8. Negative 1 squared. Let's see, we've got 12 minus negative 1 squared. Negative 1 squared is 1. 12 minus 1 is 11. 12 minus 0. 12 minus 1. 12 minus 4. And then 12 minus 9. Okay, so this with the x squared will be a different figure. Let's look at what that's going to look like. Again, you're going to have to do the algebra. You're going to have to do the math and fill that in. And then they will offer you 3 or 4 different graphs, and you'll figure out which one is the correct graph. You won't have to draw your own graph. Good, it's a parabola. Or if you want to say it in a cool way, you say parabola, but then you sound a little silly. It's more correct, parabola. Okay, let's look at what we're doing. Negative 3, 3. Let's see, negative 3, 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go this way again also. Negative 1, 2, 3, 3. Negative 2, 8. Negative 1, 11. 0 says don't go sideways. 12 says go up 12. That's not 12. There's 12. 1, 11. 2, 8. And 3, 3. And then we have our nice sweet parabola. Opening down. The x squared tells us it's a parabola. A minus in front of it tells us it opens down like an umbrella instead of up like a U. And we'll learn all that. We'll spend a great deal of time looking at the details of parabolas. Okay, that's it for the intermediate algebra review. Let's go to the next section, 1.5, which won't feel like a big jump at all. This section and then the rest of next week is basically a review. It's chapter 1 in the book, 1.5 and 1.6, and it's some decent review. Okay, 1.5 is quadratic equations. Quadratic means x squared. Equations means equal. So we're going to be factoring. Remind ourselves how to factor and use zero factor property. Okay, first one is x squared minus 7x minus 30 equals 0. You see the equal sign, that's new to us in this section. We've got several methods. Let's first look at the most common one for you, I would guess. Zero factor property. You need a 0. We got a 0. 100% you do not need to read the book chapter. The first problem in 1.5 is going to look so much like this. If you fuzzy your eyes a little bit, it'll look exactly like that. They're just different numbers. There's no other resource that you will need if you're understanding what I'm doing. But at my math lab, they've got videos for you. They've got help me solve this. They've got ask my instructor, all kinds of tools that'll help you. It'll be plenty what we've done if you're following it. If you're not following it, then I would probably look at the media that's out there at my math lab. If you like a book, go to Khan Academy and just say put in quadratic equations and see what pops up. Find one that looks like yours. But no, you're not going to have to do any research outside of class on any of this. This is going to be very straightforward. How many ever problems we just did? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you've got 12 problems out there at my math lab for the intermediate algebra review. Use the problems we do in class as guides when you do your homework. They will match almost exactly. Okay, so I've got a 0. I need to factor this. Is there a GCF? No, there's not. So let's set up the answer. Got to put x's in the first positions. This sign back here, the sign is a minus sign. When you've got a minus sign, the signs need to be different. So one needs to be a positive and one needs to be a negative. And now we get to play the fun game of what two numbers multiply to give us 30, whose difference is 7. So we're looking for the two numbers that we're going to put here that multiply to give us 30, who when we subtract them, we get 7 because our signs are different, so we'll be subtracting them. If you know, fantastic, you're done. But if you don't know, start out with 1 times 30. Good, that multiplies to give you 30. The difference though is 29. We want 7, so we're not there. Let's see, does 2 go evenly into 30? Yeah, it does. 2 times 15. That multiplies to give you 30. That difference though is 13. We want a difference of 7. Good. Next, that's not working. Let's keep going. Let's try 3. Yeah, that goes in. 3 times 10 gives us 30 when we multiply. And the difference is 7, so we're there. We have found our two numbers. But because these two signs don't match, we don't get to just slap them wherever we want to. If you have a method of figuring out which one goes where, you use that. If you don't have a method, let me offer you my method. My method is to grab the biggest number, the bigger number, 10. So I'm going to grab 10, and I'm always going to pair him up down here with the sign that sits first. The first sign in this problem is a minus. So I'm going to put the minus with the 10. There's the minus. I'm going to put the 10 there. So I'm always going to grab the larger of the two numbers when the signs are different. I'm always going to grab the larger of the two numbers and hook him up. Well, that means something different now, doesn't it? Anyway, put him next to the negative sign. The other number 3 is just going to go there. And now if you pay attention, if we do first, outside, inside, last, first gives us x squared, outside gives us a negative 10x, inside gives us a positive 3x. There's that negative 7x we are looking for. No, the negative does not always go second. You can always have changed them out. Instead of writing that, I could have gone x and x, put the minus there and the plus there. I'd still be grabbing my big number and putting him with the negative sign. So I'd put my big number there and my little number on the other end. So no, it doesn't. The negative does not have to always go second. Okay, so we got a 0. We did the factoring. Now let's use the property that allows you to separate out each piece and set each one equal to 0. And now solve. Move that over. We get x equals positive 10. Move that over. We get negative 3. Remember, the sign always changes if you move somebody across the equal sign. We were expecting two numbers to work. We got two answers that we have to work. That's good. That's what we wanted. Okay, let's look at square root property. I've got 3 of these and then we'll quit for the day. Square root property is another way of solving a quadratic equation. Zero factor property is the first way you learned. Square root property is another way. Let's look at it. It is useful when you have an x squared term and only numbers. See, we don't have any x terms here. We only have x squared and numbers. So we're going to use square root property. It's easy. Let's get the x by itself. Let's work toward that. If we want to get this x by himself, the first thing we have to do is get rid of the 7, the thing that is less attached. So minus 7 on that side, we'll get rid of him. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to both sides. Now we're still trying to get x by itself. So the next closest thing is the 4. Let's divide by 4. And now we can get rid of this exponent. The way to get rid of an x squared is to take the square root of an x squared, because what that asks you, what times himself will give you x squared? Just a second, I'll answer that, Catherine. That's asking you what times himself will give you x squared, so that's x. The square root of x squared, that's 2 divided by 2, gives you just plain old x. The square root of x squared is just an x. What I do to one side, I have to do to both sides. So there we go. We've got a square root of 11 right there. So square root of 11 is the answer. The problem is I was expecting 2 answers. And this is going to be 2 answers because I've got to consider both the positive and negative versions of that. Let me show you why. Let's say we had x squared equals 9. That asks you what number times himself will give you 9. Well, you know that if we had 3, 3 squared gives you 9. You also know that -3 times -3, that thing squared, gives you 9. So there are two answers, the positive and the negative of that. That's why we've got to put two answers here. It is always going to put a plus and minus there. You're always going to have both to consider when you put the radical on. I put the radical in this problem. They didn't hand me a problem with a radical. The problem was not there. Now figure out what that is. And I go, oh, in this country, we only take the positive square root. So the only answer is 5. But you know -5 times -5 equals positive 25. So -5 is an answer, but not in this country. In this country, we have somewhere along the line agreed that when they give you the radical, you answer with only the positive version. But if you put the radical on, you got to come up with two answers. So positive square root of 11 and negative square root of 11 are the two answers. And you will have one of those keys. No, x is positive, x is square root of 11 and negative square root of 11, not plain old 11. You've got to have the radicals on there. But you can write it using this key. That key is available to you at my math lab. So you can either write it out. Okay, Abdul, can you open up your mic and tell me what you're confused about?
I got lost after you minus the 7 from the 4x squared, and then plus 7 and 5.
So we subtracted the 7 here to get rid of it because we're trying to get ourselves down to x equals. So I subtracted the 7 here. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do on both sides, and I got 44. You okay with that?
How did you get 44?
51 minus
51.
7.
Oh, I thought that was a 5.
Ah.
Okay, I got that's where I got lost.
And you got stuck there. You couldn't move past there.
I was like, I got -2. I'm like, oh, it's a 51. Okay, all right.
It's a 51.
Okay, that makes more sense now.
Does
Good.
that say
Good deal.
does that say square rex property?
Square root property, RT, square root. I just abbreviated it.
Okay, thank you.
So it's ROOT, square root property, because we're doing square roots on these problems. Okay, let's look at two more. They'll be very, very similar to that one. The goal is to get x by itself all the time. Let's see. Next one is 2x squared minus 6 equals negative 248. Okay, this one's going to involve our little imaginary friend I. Remember, I is the square root of -1. It's not real, it's not on the number line, but we use it in math for lots of different things. So we'll talk about that in a second. We're trying to get x by itself. So we're going to move the -6 over to the other side. I'm going to add 6 to get rid of him, add 6 on both sides. So 2x squared equals negative 248 plus 6 will give us a negative 242. Still going after this x, so I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. Negative 121. Here we are down to where we had x squared. Let me remind you, we took the square root of both sides in the other problems. That's what we're going to do here. The square root of x squared, cool. That's x, that's what we want. That's our prize, that's what we want. Whatever we've done to one side, we've got to do to both sides. So we're taking the square root of negative 121. Let me break that down for you. Square root of 121 is 11. If you don't know that, feel free. I mean, that's why you've got this calculator. Square root key is right here up above. So we'll go second, let me clear it. Second x squared, there's the square root symbol. 121 gives you 11. And then the square root of a -1 is this funky little thing I, our little imaginary friend. There is no such thing. There is no number that will work for that, but we're going to call it I so we can play some games in math. So x equals 11i. We always put the I in the back, but don't forget, you put the radical on. So you have to have two roots. You have to consider that 11i times 11i will give you this number, and negative 11i times negative 11i will give you that number also. So if you put the radical on, you have to consider both positive and negative. Let me back up. Catherine, I remember you asked, could you do zero factor property with this? No. because you're getting a radical. If we had gotten normal numbers, sorry, here we go. No, because you get a radical here. If we had gotten 3 and 10 or -2 or 7/5, then yes, this would have worked out. But this would not be able to factor into 2 sets of parentheses. So that wouldn't be doable with our regular zero factor property. And last one, ladies and gentlemen, x minus 6 squared equals 64. Good. Now, before we've gotten our thing down to x squared, before we unsquared it, this is good enough because this is a perfect square. Kaylina, got a question?
With that last one, when you do the thing where you add the answer back into the original problem to check, how would you do that with the I in the answer? Or is that not possible?
Oh, no, it's completely possible. Every single time you have an equal sign in a problem, you can always check your answer. So let's say we were taking x equals 11i, and we put it in here. 2 times 11i minus 6 equals -248. Okay, so 2 times 11 is, oh, that's squared. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. To put the 11i in there. Squaring this will give us 121. I squared, I don't know if you remember, but I squared is the same thing as -1. So there's a -1. That's a -121 times 2. So it's -242 minus 6, and that checks. Because you have to know that I squared is a -1. And that's not hugely important right now. If you can fake it on 1.5, you're good. When we need it more, we'll go over it more, and we will use it. You will get plenty of opportunities to dive into that and learn a little bit more. I times I, yes, if you're saying I squared, that's always a -1. Austin, yes. Okay, let's finish this one off. So this squared is good enough. It doesn't look like a perfect square, but it's in its essence, this is something squared. So we're good. The whole left-hand side of this problem is a perfect square. We can take the square root of that. Squaring and unsquaring cancel each other out, so we get x minus 6 for the left-hand side. If we've taken the square root of one side, we need to take the square root of both sides. The square root of 64 in this country, you know, is 8, but you put the radical on there. So you have to consider the fact that both 8 times 8 is 64 and -8 times -8 is also 64. Okay, let's move one more step. We're still trying to solve for x. Add 6 there, we get rid of it. Woohoo, we're almost done. If you add 6 to one side, you have to add 6 to both sides. Be careful, this isn't 14. This is 6 plus or minus 8. Both of these are rational numbers. We're going to have to take them apart and look at both. We're going to have to look at x equals 6 plus 8 and x equals 6 minus 8. So we've got an answer of 14 and we've got an answer of -2. We were expecting 2 answers and we got 2 answers, but only because when we put the radical on, we considered both a plus and a minus. You got to remember that part. That kind of is hard to remember sometimes. Okay, what your job now before Monday is to go in and sign in for my math lab, sign up for the chat session so I can meet you. It won't take long. Many of us won't stay 15 minutes. It'll just be 5, 6, 7 minutes, depending on what you want to chat about. Sign up for Rebecca's group, me, your group, me, if you would like to, and get a calculator. And then before Monday, you need to go into my math lab and complete the intermediate algebra review, and then take care of 1.5 up until the 3 square root problems. We did, square root factoring, the 3 square root problems. When you get to this one, you're done with 1.5. We will complete 1.5 on Monday and do some stuff on Wednesday also. Could we leave it as these? No, they won't, because you can combine them, because they are combinable, you must combine them. Good question. But yeah, if you can combine them, you got to combine them. Okay, so you're at the point right now where you're either saying, okay, I kind of got this. And remember, I introduced tons of topics here that, I mean, I grabbed from here and there and here and there. Those two sections grab all kinds of things. When we are actually doing our work, we will start with a foundation and we will build skinny little layers one by one where we understand what we're doing as we're going. This is just to make sure we all kind of have the initial foundation built in a lot of different areas. So if you were dusting off brain cells, you're in the right place. But like I said in the beginning, if you were saying, holy crap, I have no idea what is happening, then we need to chat after class. I'll stop the recording and we will chat and we'll talk about you going to a lower class to get the skills built up, that kind of thing. Maybe you stay, maybe you don't stay. But if this is completely foreign to you, this is the wrong place for you. Okay, any questions before we go? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I will be in class from 1:45 to 2, and after class I can stay also.